haven't done one of my unpopular opinions in a while, so pull up a chair. This one's actually going to help you. And I'm going to drop some names in here, but I'm going to drop names because I'm going to compliment these people and tell you why they're good. So first off, we're going to talk about Andy Galpin. Andy Galpin made this comment on a recent podcast that he did, and he said that in the future he will always make a point to include the individual results. That's a very important thing. I don't buy into any study that doesn't show me the individual results. I don't give a shit what the average is, because for all I know, 50% of the people could have had, no response at all, and 50% of the people could have been hyper responders, and suddenly now we have this average that makes it look like everyone got a good number, right? Like 50% of the people gained 20 pounds of muscle. Wow. And 50% of the people gained 0, and so now we have an average of 10. Now that's an extreme example, but the only point is just to show you that the math doesn't always work out to, really illustrate what the study found. Dr. Scott Stevenson, I would love to give him a shout out. If you guys don't have his book, you should get his book. It is fantastic. Fortitude Training and also Be Your Own Bodybuilding Coach. Both of his books are fantastic. Dr. Scott Stevenson is one of my favorite people to listen to because he always has insights that are extremely valuable. And one of my favorite ones was a podcast that he did, this Think Big Bodybuilding. They have this regular series, actually, where Dr. Scott Stevenson comes on, and there was this one where he was talking about how if you look at the individual results in some of these studies on volume, some people actually lost muscle. Boy, that would suck. How much would you hate it if you happened to be one of the people in that study and you actually lost muscle? Now, don't get me wrong. On average, people gained muscle, right? On average, people gained muscle by doing high volume training. But it was like 1/3 of the people in the study lost muscle. Oh, shit. So now if you're going by studies and you say, I'm science-based, it's kind of really not all that useful, is it? Because you could have, let's pretend you have 9 clients. 3 of them are going to lose muscle following this program. I don't think you'll be in business for very long if 1/3 of your clients are losing muscle. They're not going to be real happy with you as a coach. Now, why do I share this? Why do I bring up Andy Galpin? Why do I bring up Dr. Scott Stevenson? I bring these people up to compliment them because I would like to say that that's very intelligent of them to recognize the fact that individual responses vary. This is kind of like when you see a study and someone says, oh, carbs don't make you fat, and you can eat carbs and you'll still lose weight, blah, 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 blah. All it takes is a caloric deficit, right? But yet, when we look at some of these studies and you take a deep look at them, I believe it was Chris Gardner who did one of these studies where they took people who were, they had type 2 diabetes, or people who didn't have type 2 diabetes, and they put them on a weight loss diet, right? And what they found was that for the people who had type 2 diabetes, a low carb diet was far more effective for their weight loss. Now, don't get me wrong. People with type 2 diabetes eating a, I guess you'd call it a high carb diet, they still lost weight. I don't want to take that away from them. But the people who had type 2 diabetes and did a low carb diet lost significantly more body fat. Now, why does this matter? Well, because I assume that if you're looking to lose weight, you're really just looking to lose fat. That's what you actually want. I assume you don't want to lose muscle, and you're going to lose muscle. Everyone loses muscle. You can't diet without losing some muscle. But I assume that you would like to keep the muscle loss to a minimum and maximize the fat loss. And so for people who had type 2 diabetes, they lost more fat and retained more muscle doing a low carb diet. So this is just another example where you look at the average and you go, oh, well, there's no difference between the groups, right? Because they lost the same amount of weight. But then you look at the individual results and you look at the breakdowns and suddenly you realize, oh, wait. The people with type 2 diabetes, they may have lost a similar amount of weight, but they lost more body fat and less muscle, you see? And suddenly, the study is not what you think it is at the initial point. I'll point something else to you, too. This is another thing that's really important, is the way that the statistics are run. Lots of people will tell you, hey, fasted cardio is no better than fed cardio. There's no reason why you need to do fasted cardio. And they love to cite this study. It's like Brad Schoenfeld and Alan Oregon, right? And it's like, yeah, okay. So there's not a statistically significant difference between the groups, and it's something short, like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was, okay? If you run the statistics differently, though, and this is a big factor for those of you who aren't stats, obsessed, how you run the statistics matters. If you looked at the statistics and you ran them just ever so slightly differently, you would start to notice that, oh, wait a minute, there's a trend here. The fasted group is losing more fat than the fed group. Now, if this study had gone on for 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, 20 weeks, you would see a very large difference becoming, because, we have this graph here, and they're like this far apart, and you say, well, that's not statistically significant. It's like, now run it for 20 weeks, and suddenly they diverge really far. Meanwhile, there's tons of studies out there telling you that fasted cardio has all these benefits. It improves insulin sensitivity. It improves nutrient partitioning. It has effects on AMPK. There's all these other benefits to fasted cardio. Even the production of what's called heat shock proteins, right? So when you're in a fasted state, you have a higher level of beta-hydroxybutyrate. Beta-hydroxybutyrate is a ketone body. It's not a ketone. It's a ketone body. And it functions in the muscle as a histone deacetylase inhibitor, HDAC inhibitor. This will cause the production of heat shock proteins, which means that you'll retain more muscle. That's very important here. I think that most people would like to retain their muscle. And so if you think about this for a long-term thing, right? Oh, who gives a shit about 4 weeks? You're just trying to lose weight in 4 weeks. Well, then do whatever the fuck you want. But if you're in it for the long game, things change. The other thing to consider here is that a lot of times these studies aren't done the way that people actually do them. Like, you look at bodybuilders, let's just use bodybuilders as an extreme example. Fasted cardio definitely works for bodybuilders. Now, you're going to sit here and be like, no, that can't be true. It's not like that changes physiology. But bodybuilders use drugs. So now, once you add in Clen, yohimbine, growth hormone, probably going to use something like injectable carnitine beforehand as well, okay? And I don't know, they probably throw something else in there. Bodybuilders are bodybuilders. They use all kinds of shit. So, they're using a beta-2 agonist. They're using a yohimbine is the one that people go with. It's an alpha adrenergic. And then they toss in the growth hormone. Growth hormone is lipolytic. It does not cause growth. I don't know where people get the idea, just because it says growth hormone, it's going to make my muscles big. No, it's lipolytic. Growth hormone is fantastic for losing fat. And then they add in something like injectable carnitine into this mix, and suddenly, now the fasted cardio is way more effective. Does that matter for you if you're not using those drugs? No, but there's still a whole bunch of other benefits to fasted cardio. And I'm not telling you to do fasted cardio because really, you have to think about your situation. I mean, maybe you just feel like shit and you don't like to run when you're fasted. That's fine. That's a valid reason. But the point that I'm trying to illustrate to you is that when you look at the study itself, studies aren't all that useless. I mean, well, yeah, useful is what I'm really saying. Studies are basically useless because we're looking at averages. We're looking at these outcomes. And the reality is that no one does this shit. It's like, oh, I want to build leg strength. Isokinetic knee extensions. Motherfucker, I don't own an isokinetic knee extension machine. Those are like in fucking labs. You won't even find one at like a regular gym. You want to know why people do barbell work? I'll tell you right now. You don't need to do back squats, and you don't need to do deadlifts, and you don't have to do barbell work. Okay, but I can't afford, nor do I have the space to put a fucking leg press in my basement. I can't put a bunch of machines and Nautilus machines in my fucking basement. My garage gym doesn't have enough space, nor do I have enough money to buy all these expensive ass machines. So guess what I'm going to use? Dumbbells and barbells. Why? Because they're fucking cheap. I can afford them. I can put them in my basement. I can put them in my garage. Oh, I gotta get myself a reverse ham, and I gotta get a leg extension machine and a hamstring curl machine, and I gotta get this pec machine over here, and I get one of these jammers, and I'm gonna get one of these Smith machines too, and I get a monolift. And what do you live in, like, what, Mark Wahlberg's basement? You don't have that kind of space. You don't have that kind of money. I don't. So you do barbell work. But you look at these studies and it's like, isokinetic knee extension machine. Yeah, it's just like $30,000. Everyone has one in their basement. And so my point is, long and drawn out here, but really, guys, you gotta look at these studies and recognize that a lot of this shit, one, you're looking at averages and it tells you nothing about individual responses. Two, a lot of this shit is not the way that people actually do it. You know, show me a study on fasted cardio with bodybuilders who are using fucking insulin and growth hormone and, you know, injecting Helios. Yeah, that's a good one. You know, suddenly that changes things, right? I mean, like, you are aware that bodybuilders are using things like heptaminol, cobalt, even AMP. People are injecting AMP. That's fucking crazy. I thought it was crazy when people were injecting ATP. Now people are injecting AMP. You can kill yourself with that, by the way. Not that you can't kill yourself with insulin, but it's actually pretty hard to kill yourself with insulin. People fuck that up all the time and somehow manage to survive it. So, anyways, this is long. This is drawn out. But I hope that this was thorough enough that you understand what I'm trying to tell you. I'm telling you that, hey, studies are cool. Like, studies are great. I love studies. I do research. Want to hear all about mice? I can tell you all about mice. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help me. But I can tell you that this thing in the mouse worked. Okay? Do you see the problem? A study it has limitations. Most of these studies are just simply proof of concept, not proof that, like, oh, this is how it works. It's called proof of concept, and most people don't understand what proof of concept means. And so I'm going to sit here and tell you the layman's terminology to understand this. Proof of concept basically means, yeah, here's a mechanism, and this is what we think the mechanism is, and this study over here shows that, yep, that is the mechanism. And that's the end of it. You can't like expand that and be like, well, this is the way it works 100% of the time and 100% of people. So there you guys go. I hope this helps. I don't know, probably not, but if you sat through it, thanks, and ask any questions.